The Hanging Gardens of Babylon is one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Would you believe that I have found a hanging gardens here in Singapore? Take a look at these clips and you tell me if this place looks beautiful. Welcome to the Hanging Gardens of Punggol, otherwise known as Punggol, Sapphire, Emerald, Opal and Topaz. Hi property enthusiasts, it's me Jessica again. Welcome back to the 4th episode in my series where I'll be giving in-depth analysis of properties here in Punggol. As with my earlier 3 episodes, you can expect to discover hard figures on the price trends, the fluctuations and volume of sales, which my intent is to support your decision on whether to sell your property or buy one here. I will provide links in the description of my earlier episodes in case you have missed that. But for now, can you help me by subscribing to my channel and hit the bell to get notified of future episodes? Thanks so much. Okay, let's talk about gemstones now. Punggol Sapphire, Punggol Emerald, Punggol Opal and Punggol Topaz. These 4 precincts named after precious stones are indeed developed with gems in mind. It's rare that we can find such beautifully designed facilities stacked in HDB clusters that beat those in some condos. I mean, there are wide open spaces for kids to run, terrace-like decks to separate out play areas, planters of bougainvillea everywhere, floating elevated linkways from garden to garden, seamless integration from the blocks to the multi-storey car parks, trellis walkways that seem like they were lifted from the botanical gardens, and many more design gems. In fact, this cluster here at Punggol is so well manicured that even my producer was so impressed when he was doing his recce at this place. Anyway, this cluster of 4 precincts have a total of 38 blocks of flats with around 3,400 units of studio units, 2, 3, 4 and 5 room flats. There is also a private condo, a treasure trove here, which for the purpose of this video I won't be covering. As with every gemstone, each of the precincts here has its own unique characteristics even though they are seamlessly integrated together. Starting with Sapphire, this is the only precinct with premium flats for both 4-room and 5-room units. There are also 5-room loft units which are similar to what you have seen in my earlier episode on Tree Lodge. But just in case you missed that video, these loft units are like EMs, with the master bedroom at the 2nd level, but HDB classifies them as 5-room, not executive maisonets. Anyway, the gem for Sapphire here is the rooftop facilities deck. If you let your imagination run wild a little, you might just feel like you're staying in a condo, minus the pool. But regardless, it's really nice to walk around this place to admire all the beautiful bougainvillea blooming around. And I'm impressed with the elevated linkways here set against the tall fir trees, making this precinct feel rather special. What do you think? Next, we will move to Emerald, where you will find 3, 4 and 5 room flats. Nothing really special with the flats here, but I'm even more wowed by the facilities deck here. Different from those at Sapphire, the deck here are terraced, with different facilities situated in its own level. And mind you, we are not on the ground, but on top of the car park. Anyway, this deck is pretty huge, so it's very suitable for workouts and the children to play at the playground or roam around. Similar to Sapphire, you can admire the flowers here too. One more thing before we move to the next precinct. As if there isn't enough green and play spaces, there's another plot of recreation area at ground level, tucked between Sapphire and Emerald. And this time, this space is lined with beautiful trellises with hanging plants that flank a huge playground and field. I mean, if you have young kids, they will absolutely fall in love with this amount of space for them to run around. Okay, moving across the Punggol Way main road to the other 2 precincts, starting with Punggol Topaz. While this precinct might look less impressive and it looks just like any other HDB neighbourhood, there are still some design gems to be found. For instance, look at the void deck area here. Most of the time, you do not find such well-manicured greenery along the walkways through your block, and this mini court certainly looks the part. And while the inner courtyards in between the blocks aren't anything to shout about, the walkways enveloping the outside of this cluster is certainly one of the prettiest I've seen in Punggol. Crossing over to Opal, we find cozy sitting areas like this, and strangely also a lot of posters about the wildlife and their habitats you can find in Punggol. I wonder what's the link? Also littered around everywhere are these rocks. I think they are called Iwaguni, which is a Japanese term for Zen rock garden. But I think what must be the best facility here is this open community space that comprises an impressive playground over contoured ground, and this amphitheatre-like space. Oh, you can find roof gardens on top of the car parks here too, but these ones here are nowhere as magnificent as those across the road at Sapphire and Emerald. Alright, enough of the scenery already. Let's talk about the hard figures now, which is the transactions in this cluster. The period I'll be covering will be from August 2022 to August 2024. First, for 2-room flats, the mean price increased 56,000 over this 2-year period, from 313,000 to 370,000. For 3-room flats, the climb was from 434,000 to 496,000, which was the most recent transaction. The average price of 4-room flats climbed from 590,000 to an impressive 678,000. But the steepest jump comes from the 5-room flats, which saw average transaction caveats of 741,000 to 854,000. And surprise, there's actually a 5-room unit that sold for 1.2 million. But if you're wondering why, it's actually a 5-room loft unit. And similar to the one which I've covered in the previous episode, there's also another loft unit in the market there asking for 1.55 million. I tell you, I've visited a loft unit here myself earlier this year. It's really special with a huge master bedroom upstairs. Anyway, if I were to remove that loft unit from this list, the range for 5-room flat goes from 723,000 to 813,000. A lot more palatable if you ask me. In terms of floor plans, the flats here have carbon copy layouts that you see from Tree Lodge and Coroninus. You can see examples here. It seems that HDB hasn't put up much changes in the layout for flats in Punggol since 2010. Back to the prices, I'll share more of my thoughts on the figures later. For now, just understand that prices here are still on the uptrend, which is a good sign for sellers. But before I do this, let me show you the amenities you can find within and around this cluster. This cluster here is at the extreme west of Punggol, and more west and will arrive at Sungai Serangoon. And there are no schools within this cluster too. So we'll probably not see scores of parents with their cars waiting downstairs during school dismissal timings. This means this place is more zen. But it doesn't mean you're not well served by amenities. Especially here at Opal, because you'll find a rather well-stocked prime supermarket here. An okay food court, but with a rather popular Zisa store in the evening, and a few stores that sell basic goods and services. And over here at Sapphire, there's a very famous porridge store in a small coffee shop. Most residents staying around here can vouch for how long the lines can form. There are also 2 schools adjacent to us, Vela Primary School opposite Emerald, and what I heard is the rather popular Yusuf Ishak Secondary School opposite Opal. Certainly from the outside, this secondary school looks impressive. For those who stay at Sapphire or Opal, Waterway Point and the MRT is 5 to 7 minutes of walk away. There's also an LRT station here, Sutek, which I wonder what's the meaning behind this name. But I believe this is more for the residents staying at Opal and Topaz. For those who drive, this cluster is relatively closer to the TPE exit, with only 1 to 2 junctions to potentially get stuck at. And once you hit TPE, you're easily connected to CTE, SLE, KPE and PIE. And in around a year's time, a new bridge that spans Sungai Serangoon will be ready to connect motorists to Seletar Link, giving you another alternative exit to TPE. So, if the flats here have similar sizes and layouts as the rest of the flats in Punggol, and we are equally far to the MRT as Tree Lodge or Coroninus, why would people want to buy a unit here? Well, I reckon there are 2 reasons. First, prices here are a little lower than Tree Lodge. And what's better, Emerald is a year younger than Tree Lodge and Coroninus, and Sapphire, Opal and Topaz have 4 to 5 years more in their lease. But the second reason is the deal sealer, I reckon. I'm talking about the facilities here at Sapphire and Emerald, specifically the design. Compared to most other clusters in Punggol, I'm very impressed with what I see here. And if you have younger children, I'm sure they will love it here. And even if you choose to buy a flat at Opal or Topaz, you can actually look for one that's tucked all the way to the west. And in doing so, you get this view. It's not a water view exactly, but it beats looking into another unit 20 meters away. So, if you are still unable to decide or hoping to get some doubts clarified, I'm just a WhatsApp away for you. Feel free to give me a call and I will assist you until all your queries are answered. So now is the time you ask, should I buy a unit here if I'm looking at moving into Punggol? And if you stay here, should you sell? Let's start with the first group first, the potential buyers. When we look at the recent transactions that you've seen, you could see the prices are still on the rise. And I reckon that for the next few months, chances are prices will continue to go up still because of impending general elections. Why? It's because the government won't impose any curbs anymore during these few months. And barring any major events worldwide, there's no reason for demand to fall and correspondingly prices to drop too. So buyers, you will have two options. First, pull the trigger now and buy today in anticipation of prices increasing still. Otherwise, wait until next year, perhaps towards the second half of 2025, where potentially there could be another cooling measure since prices have really gone out of hand, in my opinion. For instance, the prices of flats here. With 3-room flats transacting at up to 540,000 and 4-room flats at up to 770,000, these are prices that are more than 100,000 over the average transaction prices for non-developed estates. But then again, figures are always relative. Because compared to a 3-bedroom condo unit at a Treasure Trough, which is just next door to Sapphire and Emerald, you'll be saving some 1 million for roughly a same-size 4-room flat. And honestly, like what you've seen, the HDB facilities here aren't shabby at all, especially when compared to those in this condo. Yes, you don't have a swimming pool, but trust me, after the first or second year staying in a condo, you won't be using the pool anymore. So give this cluster a chance. Just like what happened to my producer, he really wasn't sure about this precinct, thinking that we're shooting yet another cookie cutter cluster of flats until he made a visit prior to this shoot to recce the place. Immediately, he was captivated by what he saw at Sapphire. I mean, there are many things that even the footages that you see in this video can't describe the feeling. So, I would encourage you to send me a WhatsApp and I'm most happy to bring you around this cluster to have a look yourself. Okay, so much for buyers. For sellers now, what are my thoughts? Well, with the same guess that prices might correct a bit next year, if you're thinking of selling your unit here or anywhere in Punggol or even in the adjacent districts, I would advise that you do so soon. Okay, it's been a long video and just like that, I've done 4 episodes of the in-depth analysis of Punggol clusters. What do you think of this series? Would you like me to continue featuring this town or move on to nearby Sengkang, Pasir Ris or Tampines? Let me know in the comments below, okay? Lastly, it will help me a lot if you can hit the subscribe button before you go. Hitting the bell will also get you notified on my new video release. Thank you for staying through this video with me and I will see you in my next episode, wherever that may bring me. See you, bye!